I'm Mitch Daniels, and you're watching Fast Track News.
Good afternoon, Boilers, and welcome to this special edition of Fast Track News. It's Friday, November 11th, and I'm Jaden Rusi. A couple of weeks ago, I sat down with President Daniels to discuss his rapidly approaching stepping down date and any future plans he may have. Hear what he had to say about his time at Purdue right now. Good afternoon, I'm Jaden Rusi of Fast Track News, and today we're joined with our very own Purdue President, Mitch Daniels. And today I'm just going to be asking him a few questions about his future retirement and stepping down from Purdue President and any future plans he may have. So to begin, President Daniels, just to start, how was your experience of being Purdue President?
The great experience of my life, I would say. I've enjoyed every day of it, well, almost every day, and learned a lot. I think in any role you accept, you hope to learn and grow and be stretched, and I certainly was. I came to this job without prior experience in higher ed, and so even 10 years on, I feel like I'm still learning and still to some extent a newcomer. Although it's amazing, I've been now for some time the senior most in tenure terms president in the Big Ten among all 14 schools. So maybe you could say I'm a survivor.
So many would say that the tuition freeze would be one of your biggest highlights as Purdue president. Would you agree with that statement, or do you think that you have many other big achievements?
I'd agree with one of. You would hope after 10 years you've done more than one thing, even if it's a big thing. So I would certainly list that up there, but the growth of Purdue, which has been related to the freeze is not the only reason, but we know that holding costs down, the value of a Purdue degree going up every year as we've tried to invest in quality while holding price down. I think that's certainly something I'm going to remember fondly, watching the growth that's happened. And then our growth as a real STEM powerhouse. We've grown in almost every college, I guess in every college, but the growth has been exceptionally large in the disciplines that we think we're very good at. We know the world needs, the nation needs more of: engineering, polytechnic, and the life sciences, natural sciences, and on and on. So I'd rank all those high. Purdue Global, adding a whole new dimension to our land-grant mission. On the day we're taping this, Jaden, we're just 2 days after the Purdue Global commencement on campus. I hope students and faculty and others got a good glimpse of that. Here you have people at a very different point in life than our typical students, getting a big step forward in their 30s and 40s and even older, single moms and so many first-generation students. That's a great mission to add to what Purdue's always done well. So all those things, our high school network now, building our own pipeline of inner city students where it's been hard to have as many as we'd like.
Absolutely.
So those all make the list. But yeah, sure, doing something that hasn't been done elsewhere in higher education through actually lowering the total cost of attendance, that's been satisfying.
And you have had so many highlights. Have there been any challenges throughout your Purdue tenureship?
All the time, of course. You know, it's just a rule of life that if you bring big change, it's going to make somebody uncomfortable or even upset. And so everything we just talked about, and many more I could mention, were different and new. But that's what Boilermakers do. But as I've told so many students over the years, you just have to accept the fact you're going to go try new things and make big change. It's going to generate negative reaction from somewhere, and you just have to accept that. Do your best to try to persuade people, and if you can't, let the results speak for themselves later. They usually do.
Was there ever one specific challenge or one specific event, one specific time period that you felt was just so endearing and you weren't? It was super tough.
We've had 2 homicides on this campus in 10 years. One just recently, which is still weighing heavily on me. But the first time it happened, my first year, I think, I was out of the country on Purdue business. We did set up a very important research relationship with a whole nation in South America. But that's where I was when that especially awful event happened. And I had to get back, find a way to get back. And then we tried to bring the campus together as best we could. That was certainly one of the darker days.
And many would say and cite you and Purdue as a general during the COVID years as being one of the leading schools and leading colleges to get students back on campus. What was your process through that? What made you want to get students back on campus?
I probably should have mentioned that in a previous answer. Although I consider that a spectacular, all-in communal effort on the part of Purdue. I tried to stress that over and over again, that if we were going to stay open, if we were going to keep from delaying your graduation and thousands of others' progress, it was going to take everything and everybody. And even then, we didn't know if it could be done. Every morning at 8 a.m., we gathered in a room right downstairs. The first thing we looked at was data from the day before. We built a great data system so we knew how many cases, most importantly, and unlike so many other places, I never understood this, we measured severity. I said from the beginning, what I really want to know, a case is not a case is not a case. If an 80-year-old in a nursing home gets it, this is very serious business. If a healthy person your age gets it, it appeared even early on, maybe not so bad. So we set up a measurement of just simple 6 level system. And any morning, if we had seen a significant number of students or faculty or staff getting seriously, dangerously ill, we'd have called it off. But fortunately, through spectacular pitch-in effort by especially students, we made it. And I know from many letters, emails, and personal encounters with students, that made an effect too, just like holding down tuition. We've heard from lots of students who said, I came to Purdue because I watched, while I was stuck in the basement at home, I watched you folks work through it.
Yeah. And speaking about personal encounters with students, have you had any personal encounters with students or faculty or staff that have left an impact on your life, an impact on your career?
Hundreds of them. I'll say they're the 2 principal joys of the job. This is certainly one. And I'll be having dinner with students tonight, tomorrow night. It's been a big part of the learning process, but also, again, part of the real enjoyment. And sure, just to pick one example, Tyler Trent, what he meant to this place, what he eventually meant way beyond this place. And I named a scholarship in his honor. We raised a little money to honor people who've worked their way through, genuinely serious, physical or other health challenges. And every one of those is an inspiration, but I could name a lot more.
And having those interactions with students and faculty, is that one of the biggest things you'll miss after stepping down from Purdue?
I keep stressing how much fun it's been, and it was. Lots of laughs at the ball games, over in the co-rec, everywhere. It has a serious purpose, always did. I've always thought in any job I had, it was important to stay in touch with, I always say, ground level, whatever that is. In my previous job, I traveled all over this state all the time, stayed in people's homes, not hotels. Made it my business to meet people at every kind, every station of life. Made me better at the job. And one thing I've cautioned our students about in a 3 commencements and other times is, when you get out of here, be careful not to let yourself be insulated with just people who are like you. You're going to leave here with a great credential. You're going to leave here ready to be a leader of some kind. And too much about modern life puts people in positions where they don't meet others who have different interests and different lives than they do.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned ball games and having fun at the co-rec and everything. Is that also some things you're going to miss? What else?
Yeah.
What else will you miss besides just the students and the faculty?
I think I'll just miss feeling that I'm part of an institution that already was great, but is on its way up.
Mm-hmm.
I know any way we measure it, for instance, Purdue's national reputation, national visibility has gone up. I think it's going to go further up, and it'll be fun to watch that, but it's been fun to be along for the ride.
I'm going to move on to a little bit of your future plans now. What are your future plans? Do you plan on running for U.S. president anytime soon? Or?
They can rule that out. Well, this will be a short answer because I haven't made any. I've been trying not to.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, as the last job finished, I was trying not to make a plan, and then look what happened.
Yeah.
I felt that the Purdue trustees and search committee deserved an answer, but this time I really have not sketched anything out yet.
Yeah.
We've just started a couple things that are important to me. I want to try to get them airborne as best I can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the new extension of our campus down in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
You may miss it, but students coming along soon, I hope will have an option, if it works for them, to do a year down there, have a job in a interesting company that might be an important part of their education.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I want to try to make sure we get off to a decent start. And our new business school, that expansion, I want to get that well launched. So that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm. And once you finally officially step
Mm-hmm.
down and pass it over to Dr. Sheng, what will your relationship with Purdue look like once you're officially stepped down?
Well, my attitude has always been in a job like mine, when you're gone, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hover around, and I won't do that.
Yeah.
There are some suggestions that maybe I could chip in from the side
Mm-hmm.
on a couple of like the projects I just mentioned, maybe for a while.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything Purdue asks me to do, as long as I am sure that it won't in any way be in the new president's way, which I will never let happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's some way on the side around the edges that I can assist, I mean, I love this place, and I want to see it, what I think has been a lot of progress, continue and even accelerate.
And what do you have any advice you would offer to Dr. Sheng once he eventually steps into being Purdue president?
He's not going to need a lot of advice. I think he's ideally suited for the Purdue of today and tomorrow. He's got tremendous energy and obviously intellect. He has, if anything, I might, sometimes I tease him,
Mm-hmm.
You can relax once in a while.
Yeah.
You don't have to be on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But he has such a high energy level that it just manifests itself that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be very successful. I think he's going to be very respected and liked by faculty and students alike. And I can't wait to see what the next chapter brings here.
Yeah. And what led to your decision of selecting Dr. Sheng for next president?
Well, let me answer that by saying that I love this job. I hadn't run out of ideas or energy. I hope that came through in previous answers.
Absolutely.
It's not that at all,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that I had anything else in mind. But Jaden, one day you and most of your viewers will be in positions of responsibility in some business or some institution, and when you are, I hope you bear in mind that succession management, handing things off in a way that allows whatever that enterprise is to not miss a beat or even get better, is a fundamental responsibility. I've been telling people it's the final exam in a CEO's job, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a really fine job, but if you leave that to chance and maybe things slip back, then you didn't really finish the job. So, although I could easily and almost did, extend or keep going, I thought I saw a chance to turn things over, I always say, in strong shape to strong hands.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put the institution first, opposed to your own preferences, that can lead you to a decision like that, and that's what happened here.
Awesome. I'm going to get a little more broader here for a second. So most of my life, you've either been in governmental positions of power or you've been here as Purdue president. And obviously you were governor of Indiana. And I just want to ask, what has kept you here in Indiana? What brings you back to the Indiana atmosphere?
Oh, well, from the age of 10, when our family moved to Indiana, roots have been here. I was away and happily away for some years in Washington when I was fresh out of school.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought I'd want to come back. And I'll tell you for sure, when Sherry and I had the 4 girls, we wanted them to grow up here.
Yeah.
I didn't, not the suburbs of Washington, D.C. I thought was an artificial and second best, very second best environment for them. So that was a big part of it. And once we got back, we knew that was the right decision, and no interest at all in leaving. Had been invited to many times, come run our business here, come run our organization there. Nope, there's no place like home.
Yeah. And do you have aspirations to remain in Indiana once you officially step down?
Oh, for sure. Certainly now. If I wasn't going to move in my 40s or 50s or 60s, why now?
Mm-hmm. And I know you've mentioned some side projects that you've started before you eventually step down. What has this last year been like for you? Has it been stressful? Has it been a lot to do, a lot going on, or has it been a little more calm and relaxed, more laid back?
I've always believed that if things feel a little calm, it means you're not stirring them up enough.
Mm-hmm.
I always love the story about Winston Churchill. In his later years, after the war is won, he's prime minister again. One morning, the young military attaché gave him a briefing first thing in the morning, and he says, "Prime Minister, the world is calm today. Nothing much is happening." Churchill says, "Well, then let's make something happen." Mm-hmm. And that's always been kind of my view. So I think you'd have to say this has not been a calm year. We've started some new things, added to some others. Biggest student body ever, biggest graduate population ever, hired over 200 new faculty. Mm-hmm. Things are happening, and but they better, or else I'm not doing my job.
Mm-hmm. As for sporting events,
mm-hmm.
obviously the students love seeing you at the sporting events and doing can you spot Mitch and everything like that. Yeah. Are you going to miss going to these sporting events, attending sporting events?
I think I'm going to quit coming to ball
That's
games.
fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Now I'll be there without. It's kind of a full day of work, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's fun, but
yeah,
the way I like to do it, as you may have noticed, get around, see as many people as possible, students, fans, band, cheerleaders, everybody. Usually have guests. I usually always have guests upstairs. I got to get up there and tend to them a little bit,
of course,
as well. And so heck, I plan to be a season ticket holder, and but now I get to just have fun like you do.
Mm-hmm. And just some more lighthearted questions since you're stepping down. Do you have any personal favorite restaurants here on campus?
I'm tempted to say Westwood, because our hospitality and tourism management folks. I've tried to share that place with students, faculty, community people, and we've had a lot of guests come through. We had
mm-hmm.
dinner for Peggy Noonan the other night, and they do a great job. Sometimes people have joked it's the best restaurant in West Lafayette.
Yeah, fortunately I haven't had the opportunity to have any time there yet.
3 months, who knows?
Oh yeah, true, that's true. Anyways, a couple weeks ago you had a meeting in a little panel with the Ukraine scholars, and I actually did a story on Tanya and kind of had a little bit of a story from her, and I know you met with her and discussed with her on the panel, and we heard some of what the plan was for the Ukraine Scholars Program, and I just kind of want to get a background of why you thought it was so important, and
I just thought it was the right thing to do. I thought it was kind of a Purdue thing to do,
mm-hmm.
To jump out there early and say, listen, if somebody has to find a place of refuge while the war is going on over there, somebody from a Ukrainian university, well, we should open our doors to them. And I'm really proud of the way the community stepped up, and we had the first such program, the biggest one that we know of, and I think that's just entirely appropriate. It's not why I think it's a good thing and a right thing to do. I really hope, and that's why the program the other night, I hope that Boilermakers here will learn from it too, have some exposure to these scholars, and just think a little more about, this is a tough and dangerous world. We Americans are so lucky that we've not had to experience things like that. But there are sometimes Americans are so hard on ourselves. It's not a bad idea to look around the world and realize, no, you know what? There are some really bad people out there, and we hopefully can all agree on that. And so, for all those reasons, I thought it was good to have him here. Although, as I told him at the end of that program, don't take this wrong, but we can't wait for you to go home,
be able to go home.
We know they want to.
And do you wish and hope and imagine that Purdue will continue to do that in the future if anything else like this arises?
Well, I could imagine that. Yeah, sure. We're that kind of people, and we should show sympathy and solidarity with people who are on the run. I mean, I could imagine. Look at all the people fleeing the socialist dictators in places like Venezuela. If there's some Venezuelan scholars, we have some students here. If there were some of those as they're escaping that wanted to come here or from places like that, we should be open to it.
President Daniels' last day in office is December 31st. Dr. Meng Chiang has already been selected to take over at the start of the new year. We have reached out to get an interview with Dr. Chiang, but are still waiting to hear back. In other news, winter has finally arrived, and meteorologist Marcus Truccio is here to tell you just how many layers you will need this weekend.
Yeah, Jaden, today's going to be that last day where you're not going to have to layer up too much. It's going to be around 52 degrees this afternoon. That's going to happen relatively early in the day. Winds are going to be a little breezy at 10 to 15 miles per hour, so it's going to feel more like the mid to upper 40s. But we're going to hit our high temperature sometime around noon, and then from then on throughout the day, it's going to drop through the 40s, so we'll hit that high temperature early on. And with mostly cloudy skies, you're not going to get much heating from the sun. And as we work into tonight after sunset, that's when we're going to drop into the 30s. It's going to be a pretty cold night, and when you wake up on your Saturday, it's going to be in the upper 20s. Now, I do want to take a look at what's going on around the whole country because we do have Tropical Storm Nicole down here made landfall yesterday morning very early, and that's going to influence us a little bit. That's where our clouds are going to come from tonight into tomorrow morning. And then we also have this cold front moving through, and that's what's going to bring this cool down going into tonight into tomorrow morning as well. But we're going to kind of be right in between them. So you see this precipitation off to our west, but that's kind of going to break up, and all we're going to see are the clouds and then the cold after that front moves through. But first, I do want to take a look at stats from Hurricane Nicole. Like I said, very early Thursday morning, made landfall near Vero Beach, Florida with 75-mile-per-hour winds. There was some gusts close to 80 in Florida. There was a storm surge of 5 feet, so pretty significant flooding on Florida's east coast. And this is only the 4th November hurricane landfall in the U.S., so definitely a notable event happening down there in Florida, and that's going to move up the east coast. So for the rest of today, clouds 52, even though 52 is colder than what we've been seeing this week. Savor that because we're going to have a low of 29. And as we move into Saturday, we're going to not get out of the 30s. 39 degrees with a low of 24, and we're still going to have those breezy conditions. So it's going to feel more like around the freezing mark or even a little bit colder. So you're going to have to bundle up this weekend. And the sun will make an appearance on Sunday, but it's going to be a tad colder at 38 degrees for our high and a low of 22. Now we are playing Illinois this weekend, just about an hour away. So the weather is going to be pretty similar. We'll have mostly cloudy conditions. It's going to be a little cooler over there in Champaign. It's going to be 32 if you're doing anything before the game traveling over there. Really only getting up to 37, and those winds will still be 10 to 20 miles per hour. So over in Illinois, it's going to feel like the mid-20s as kickoff is starting around noon, and then more clouds will build in towards the end of the game with temperatures still in the mid-30s. Now, as we take a look at the 7-day, once we get past this weekend, it's not going to warm up at all. We're not going to see too much relief. We'll see 41 will break the 40-degree mark on Monday with a low of 27. Some more breaks in the clouds, some sunshine on Monday. And then Monday night, there is the slight chance we're seeing maybe to see some snowflakes flying around. Nothing significant, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Not looking at any accumulation, but there's definitely a little bit of a possibility there. So just something to keep an eye on. And then as we work later into the week, Tuesday, mostly cloudy cloudy skies, still around 40, and then back into the 30s for later next week. So really no relief in sight from this cold snap, and the lows still in the low 20s.
Boilermaker football is on the quest for their 6th win. Tune in after the break to see how the Boilers did last weekend.
I mean, every year is different, but it hasn't changed that much. Our league is just ominous, and you better lace them up tight and be ready to play every night. If not, you're going to get beat.
Both Hoops teams took home their home opener last week. The Lady Boilers nearly broke 100 with a 98-67 home win against Purdue Northwest. Normally our losses are from Purdue beating Purdue, but this time it was actually Purdue beating Purdue. Matt Painter and his Boiler Dozen took home the 84-53 win against Milwaukee. Freshman Fletcher Lawyer led the team in points and had 0 turnovers. Lawyer also finished with 5 3-pointers, which is tied for first for freshmen in school history. Freshman Braden Smith had 7 steals, which is most by any freshman in school history, and tied for second most all time. Pretty good season opener for last year's Mr. Basketball and his runner-up. Big man Zach Eady had 12 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 blocks. 10 of his 17 rebounds came on the offensive glass, which is tied for first in school history. The Purdue football team didn't have a good weekend last Saturday, with a 24-3 loss to Iowa. The Boilermakers only took 3 points from the number 3 defensive line. Reporter Lee Chao Shen was at the game, and details of what happened at Ross-Ade.
Purdue came up short with blustery conditions against Iowa Hawkeyes today with a score 24-3.
Thanks mostly to Hawkeyes' 5th-ranked defense and efficient play from senior quarterback Spencer Petras, who completed 13 of 23 passes, 192 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Iowa defense set the tone for the most of the game, restricting senior quarterback Aidan O'Connell. O'Connell received 2 interceptions and only finished 168 passing yards. However, he is still on the way becoming 6th Purdue quarterback exceeding 8,000 career passing yards. A scoreless first quarter was followed by 17-point second quarter for the Hawkeyes and the 2 interceptions from Aidan O'Connell, although a 34-yard field goal from Mitchell Finners made it 17-3 going into the half. For the entire second half, a 70-yard touchdown made by freshman running back Caleb Johnson made it 24-3 in favor of the Hawkeyes, before the defense locked down for the remainder of the quarter. One bright spot for the Boilermakers was the performance of running back Devin Mockbee, who finished 65 yards on 14 attempts, as well as performance of Charlie Jones, who had 11 catches for 104 yards against his former team. Despite this, Purdue's offense seems to be stuck in neutral for much of the game, going only 2 for 16 on 3rd down and 2 for 5 on 4th downs. Coach Jeff Brown seemed reluctant to punt at times, opting to go for a both on 4th and 8 and 4th and 13, while neither of them was successful. Despite Aidan O'Connell's record-setting achievement, this will probably not be a game that he wants to remember.
Next week, Purdue has to Champaign play the 16th ranked Fighting Illini. This is Lee Chao Shen from Fast Track News.
Thank you, Lee Chao. That's it for this edition of Fast Track News. We will be back next weekend for more sports, weather, and news. I'm Sean English. Have a great weekend, Boilers.